Hello, everyone, and welcome to our panel discussion on helping students connect research and strategy. Our session today is with Stephen Stromp, Cindy Williams, and Dr. Raj Shea. My name is Paul Cotter, and I'm the Director of Product Marketing for Higher Education at 𝐥𝐞𝐚𝐫𝐧. I'm thrilled to be here with you today. As we begin, I want to encourage you to use the chat feature. You'll find it on the right-hand side of your screen. This is where you can submit any questions that you have for the panelists or for 𝐥𝐿𝐵𝐾. Our amazing team is standing by to answer your questions live. Go ahead and enter in the chat right now. Tell us where you're from, what school you teach at, and we'd love to hear from you as we get started today. And it goes without saying, but please be respectful and polite when commenting. We want this event to be enjoyable for everyone. So additionally, we really want you to be involved in our discussion today. So we're going to start out with a poll question. So the question is, what social media platform do you prefer to use professionally? So that poll is going to pop up on your screen right now, and you can see you have a selection of LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. So go ahead and fill that out. Which social media platform do you prefer to use professionally? Okay. Looks like predominantly LinkedIn right now, a couple Facebook, a couple Instagram. Okay, great to see that. And it's great to see you who are joining us today. Thank you so much. Just a little bit of background. Over the last decade, 𝐥𝐿𝐵𝐾 has developed more than 30 courseware and simulations for marketing, business, communications, and now accounting students. And we're not stopping there. We promise to continue to innovate and develop products in new subjects and categories. Our mission is to help you, help your students, help the world. Besides events like today, we do this by developing robust, first-in-the-world courseware and simternships. Our simternships are simulated internships, and everything we create at 𝐥𝐿𝐵𝐾 is designed to reduce your preparation time and bring high-quality educational experiences into your classroom for your students. But let's get back to today. To kick things off, I'm excited to introduce 𝐥𝐿𝐵𝐾 CEO and founder, Stuart Draper. He's going to share a few thoughts with us as we begin today.
Hi everyone. At 𝐥𝐿𝐵𝐾, we're on a mission to help educators help students help the world. We create up-to-date, turnkey materials that save you time and make your job as an educator a little easier, and your students' jobs a lot more engaging. Our first-in-the-world simternships, or simulated internships, give your students real-world practice with the concepts that you're teaching them. These powerful simulations work hand-in-hand with our courseware. 𝐥𝐿𝐵𝐾 courseware gives you great resources like detailed lesson plans and auto-graded chapter quizzes, while your students get an accessible, engaging digital text. But you know what? While these materials are ready to be released, our work on them is never really done. 𝐥𝐿𝐵𝐾's slogan is Stay Current. We update our courseware and simternships annually to keep them current with what's happening in your industry. If there's something you think we can improve, let us know. Consider us your custom simulation and courseware provider. If we don't make it just the way you need it, we'll keep working on it to make it better. We're dedicated to bringing you the best simulations and courseware in the industry, and we're not going anywhere. Over the last decade, we've experienced explosive growth, and we now offer more than 40 simternships and courseware bundles across 4 different categories: marketing, business, communications, and accounting. To date, we've helped nearly 1 million students at schools all over the world, and we can't wait to help you and your students next. Today, we're going to explore some great topics, ideas, tools, and strategies that can help enrich your curriculum, enhance learning, and keep you current with your industry. Throughout the event, feel free to chat in any questions you may have. The 𝐥𝐿𝐵𝐾 team will be standing by to help you. And if you enjoyed today's event, you can visit 𝐥𝐿𝐵𝐾.com to get connected and see a schedule of our upcoming launches, fireside chats, presentations, and more. Each month, we host events just like this one, and we're building some great online communities for professors in the marketing, business, communications, and accounting spaces. We want to give you a place to meet new colleagues, collaborate on ideas, and share your professional insights and brilliance. So, thank you for joining us today. I hope today's event helps you, help your students, help the world. Enjoy the show.
As Stuart pointed out, innovation is at the forefront of StuKent and what we do. So we have a really great panel discussion planned for you today. And to begin, I want to introduce our panelists. The first is Steven Stromp. He's the Executive Director of Market Intelligence and Strategy at Davenport University, headquartered in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Throughout his career, Steven has gathered intelligence and provided strategy for a variety of industries, including healthcare, consumer packaged goods, automotive, and higher education. In his work for an international research consulting firm, Steven was responsible for managing all phases of research and providing strategic recommendations. Steven is also the author of 3 different courseware at StuKent, including our brand new Strategic Management and Planning courseware. And as a special gift to everyone attending today, we want to offer you free instructor access to our Strategic Management and Planning courseware. With instructor access, you will be able to preview the entire courseware, including lesson plans, assignments, lecture slides, and more. So go ahead and click on the link right now that appeared on your screen for that access. Welcome, Steven.
Thank you.
Next, I want to introduce Cindy Williams. Cindy is the founder and CEO of Wanderlust Campus. She is a travel industry expert, advocate, growth consultant, top travel industry motivational speaker, TV show, and podcast host. Cindy received the Vanguard Award from CLO Magazine, the Cubic Award, and multiple Magellan Awards for her work in training and development. Her YouTube channel was named in the top 20 travel channels on YouTube and is the #1 channel for travel entrepreneurs in the world. She's been featured as an expert on every major media outlet, including CBS, NBC, BBC, Fox, and Travel Weekly. Welcome, Cindy.
Good morning.
Now I want to introduce Raj Shea. Raj is a trade compliance professional with extensive expertise in trade compliance, focusing on export controls for the high-tech sector. He has worked with the NASA Ames Research Center in various capacities. Raj has an MBA in international marketing from the Business School of Lausanne, Switzerland, and a DBA from the Advanced Institute of Management in Nyon, Switzerland. He also teaches strategic management at California State University, East Bay. Welcome, Raj.
Good to be here. Hello.
So we are so excited to have Steven, Cindy, and Raj with us today. If you would like to connect with any of our panelists, there's a link at the bottom of your screen. Click on that and you can connect with any one of them. Right now, I'm going to hop off stage and turn the time over to Steven to lead our panel discussion.
Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome.
So I want to, first of all, thank you for being here, and also thank you so much to Raj and Cindy for joining me today. I want to step back a little bit and talk about the inspiration for this session. When we first launched the Strategic Management and Planning courseware, we ran a poll prior to that launch, at the beginning of the launch, among those who teach strategic management. And according to instructors, what we found out was that strategic management students struggle the most with understanding how to collect and leverage the data gained from research to make those sound strategic decisions. So this is kind of a response in listening to instructors of strategic management courses. But I think this also spills over into business research and marketing research and other research courses as well. So because I really got involved in strategy through my background in research, that was really my entry into the world of strategy. I really tried to connect the dots between research and strategy in the strategic management book. And we really thought, again, that would be a great topic for today. So in the real world, we know that strategic managers don't always perform the research themselves. They don't necessarily have to be research experts, but they should understand what research to request and how to interpret the results. So today, what we want to do is discuss KPIs, those key performance indicators, those key metrics, to look deeper into the data, right? So look deeper into what we should be looking at for metrics. So we're also going to be looking at what do we use in industry and what should we be teaching students in terms of using internal metrics and research, and that external research to support strategy. So we'll discuss each topic based on our industry experience, but then also talk about how to convey that information in the classroom. And really our hope here today is that you'll be able to use some of these examples in your classes, and these real world examples, and some tips on how you can convey these concepts in your actual classroom. So we're excited about that. So as I said, strategic managers need to know where to focus their efforts. And that's why we're starting with KPIs. And I love to start with KPIs in the classroom, which is determining which KPIs to use and which KPIs to monitor, and how we monitor those issues. So to kind of kick off our panel discussion, I'd like to start off by talking about some of the common KPIs and ask our panelists about some of the common KPIs in their respective industries that they particularly use, or that they look at quite a bit in their industries. And these are also examples you can use in the classroom. So I'll start off first. Many of you on the session today are in higher education, and I'm in my day job. My main job is in higher education as a director of research and strategy. So it will not surprise you one bit, some of the KPIs that I'll talk about. So enrollment is number one, right? Especially with our national enrollment decline, that's on everyone's mind. So that's a KPI, obviously, that's at the forefront of our industry. And that's typical for most industries, right? It's your sales numbers, right? But we also have retention is a big one. So are students returning the next semester? We can think about this from a customer perspective too. Are your customers, are they repeat customers? How many of them are you retaining in your business where possible? That's another metric. Student satisfaction is another metric for sure, which is of course also linked to retention. We also focus on outcomes metrics like graduation rate. So are students making it all the way to degree completion? And beyond that, are they getting jobs? So that job placement rate is another KPI we look at. And there's others too. So there may be some that are not as popular in higher education, but I've also seen KPIs related to brand perception and community perception. So those types of broad level KPIs. So I'd like to stop there because I want to transition over to Raj and ask him, in your industry, what are some of the common KPIs that are monitored?
Well, the KPIs are very important because it kind of gives the difference between success and failure in a company. So successful KPIs, they basically make a fundamental and measurable differences in either succeeding or failing to create and maintain what you call a competitive advantage. So I like to usually start by making sure that the students really have a good example of that. So in this situation, there was a company called Cisco, and they use similar to KPIs. It's called the key strategic objectives, which are very important to them, and it's basically came from a very prominent Silicon Valley entrepreneur, a person named Andy Grove from Intel. So, basically every quarter, the sales as business development managers, they had to define what you call 3 major KSOs. These are things that they have to make sure that it aligns with the leadership. So everybody is in line in terms of moving the progression of the company. So it's not just basically stating, oh, I want to make a profit of, just make, for the sake of making a profit. But you got to be very clear in terms of, what you're trying to achieve. Is it 10% profit or 20%? You got to be very specific in terms of metrics. So that is a very important feature. And the students that have, go through my class, they usually have what you call a capstone simulations. And these simulations are very important for them to kind of read out the reports and understanding the meanings of each phase of all the different terminologies. Okay, so having that exposure really explains to them, what they need to do in terms of how to, read progress reports on sales, what the updates are, what the monthly reviews are, what's this, the sales leadership in terms of what the quarterly business review that they need to take a look at. And these things are very important part of getting a good knowledge base to help them. So to do all this stuff is also important to have a good training in this mechanism. So the training program is also a feature that they need to kind of look at whenever you're trying to implement certain things. So having that type of implementation abilities so they can understand how the external vendors incorporate their strategic requirements, in terms of how it can be applied, to Cisco's strategic requirements, really helps in terms of building very good synergy. And the most important thing is also the implementing it and trying to provide a good execution of all these different aspects of the KSOs. So the key strategic objectives are very important. It enhances the student's ability to really understand and use the metric system that is vital to do these requirements. Okay, so that's where that's where the KSOs comes into play. So that's it.
Thank you for that, Raj. And Cindy, for the travel industry, what are some of the KPIs that your company monitors?
Yeah, absolutely. So within the travel industry, we work with business owners who are in the space already. So usually we like to determine a baseline of what are your KPIs? Are you measuring your KPIs? And I like to use an analogy of think about it like different levers in your business. If you're meeting or exceeding, all of the levers are kind of pushed to kind of on high and everything's working as it should. But making sure that you're measuring that from month to month, you can kind of push and pull and like Dr. Shea said, decide which ones do I have gaps in so I can then put training and other things in place. So when it comes to KPIs, the ones we measure in the travel industry are going to be overall sales. How much sales and revenue are we bringing in? What are we doing cost per inquiry? So the reason that one's important is you're spending marketing dollars in your business. So understanding am I really making the best marketing decisions by the marketing types that I have out there? So cost per inquiry is a big one for us. Cost per conversion is important as well. And then the average cost per sale, that's one that we can measure a lot with new agency owners. For example, if they have a lot of travel agents working for them, a lot of times their average cost per sale for their more experienced agents will be really high, and then the newer ones will be really low. So it's kind of figuring out what their baseline or average is, and then teaching the newer travel agents how do they move that number and get to a higher cost per sale, because that will then impact everything in their business overall for their hitting that first KPI, which is overall revenue. And then last but not least, monitoring the service. How happy are people when they interact with your business? So making sure that customer service surveys, things like that, are part of your KPI process.
Thank you, Cindy. So you both touched on a little bit of how can we convey some of the importance of this to students, and how can we better teach the concept of these metrics, of these KPIs to students in either research or strategy courses. So for the next round of questions, I want to discuss some of the tips or favorite assignments that you have. And from Cindy's perspective, as the head of a company, what is she looking for from graduates to have this knowledge? So I can talk about from a high level metric, kind of where they come from. So for instance, like student satisfaction usually has that overall satisfaction measure, right? So what I like to do is have students develop a balanced scorecard. So one of the things, I know not all companies use a balanced scorecard, but most companies use key performance indicators. If you're not familiar with the balanced scorecard, it's just really a way to categorize key performance indicators. So you have your financial indicators, you have your customer indicators, you have indicators related to internal processes, and then learning and growth. And I really find having students, give them an assignment where they have this balanced scorecard, these different areas where they can fit the metrics into, have them go out and grab metrics that they can find online from other companies or research a company and start pulling in metrics that they think can fit. And sometimes there's public information out there. They can actually find the actual number, right? The actual metric that goes with that. And that can just help them understand a holistic picture of why this is important to monitor, and kind of what can we put in these baskets that are important. But I also like to discuss uses for intervention as well. So, talk about how it's a full circle. You use these KPIs to know where you need strategic intervention, but you also use it to determine your success, right? So you're monitoring it, and if it goes down, you're intervening with strategy. But then it's a full circle. So then you're monitoring that to see, well, did my strategy have an impact, and what did that look like? So Cindy, back to you. What skills or tools related to metrics do you wish your incoming staff at Wanderlust campus had?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've actually built that into our program because it's one of those overwhelming pieces. As new business owners, we work with a lot of home-based travel agents, a lot of home-based travel agency owners that are scaling their business. So we actually give them kind of a model to build a dashboard to put their KPIs in. We do have some tools and resources in the industry. Most travel agents will work with something called a CRM system, a customer relationship management system, which will measure part of these KPIs, usually not the marketing ones though. So they still have to kind of create their own little dashboard for that part. So that's what I wish everybody just had ready to go. Our industry tech is still kind of like catching up to how to monitor all of those things, but we teach them how to do that on their own. So they have kind of that good baseline. And when you talk about kind of that full circle process, I'll just use one example of how we teach our students to really assess one KPI. So one of the ones we look at is if they're going to be spending, let's say, $2,000 a month on marketing efforts. Some of that might be going to Google pay-per-clicks or Meta ads, or maybe they're going to be doing clicks on YouTube or print, or they're doing a local show. There could be a million different marketing channels, right? So measuring their cost per inquiry, they're going to have all their marketing dollars out there. The leads are going to come in every month, making sure that they're measuring every client that they talk to. How'd you hear about us? Or what code that they put in, or some of that's automated, but making sure that they measure every single lead that comes in the business. That will give them that baseline of, okay, here's what my cost per lead was overall for all of my marketing dollars spent. But then we have them take it a step further and say, what was your cost per inquiry for each marketing type? So now I know, I just did this in my own business yesterday, so these numbers are fresh in my brain. I know that it cost me $1.94 to get a lead on Google, but it's costing me $3.84 to get a lead on Meta. So then I can decide, okay, are my dollars better spent on Google, or do I need to look at the quality of leads first and then make a decision? But I have the data at that point to start making an assessment and deciding forward. So that's one of many that we look at, but that's kind of a real full circle kind of example to share.
Thanks, Cindy. And Raj, for you, what advice do you have to instructors to better teach or illustrate this concept?
Well, one of the most important things is, we have a simulation that we kind of monitor the students with when they start. This is what you call a capstone simulations. So they have to look at their forecasting techniques. How does it relate to capacity versus production? We have to, look at their reports and analyze those reports, look at the monthly reviews, whether it's sales leadership reports or, how the business is conducted in different aspects of the business units, and look at these reports intensely. And what does it mean to the student? Explain to me, why is these figures on a weekly basis different from the other types of figures that you are getting? So, what makes it so important, and why is it an outlier sometimes? So having the ability to analyze these reports, looking at whether it's very progressive or very negative, and you have to take corrective action to help the student understand what kind of how they need to react to make the right decision inputs. So the capstone that I have is amazing because it in a way it bombards you with everything. So the students will have to make those adjustments, and sometimes students will get really stressed out. But at the end of the day, when they figure out that over a period of time that everything is going to hit you in a certain way, and it's the way you react, and they have the ability to come out of it and learn those concepts based on the impact it has on the student. So each student reacts to it differently. So what's important here is that when we have done the way we have set up our capstone is that we've been able to do it in a group formation. So the group will help each other out, and that kind of helps the students reach some of these conclusions to make very good decisions based on these weekly updates. So, and they'll learn the difference between working with the research and development groups, the marketing group, the finance groups. So all these things are basically integrated, and having to analyze these and show progress and take a very effective decision making based on the weekly reports they get really helps them understand where they need to go. So that's one of the key features.
Thanks for that, Raj. So now I'm like in the real world. So now we have our KPIs, right? That we're monitoring. If we think of that as kind of part of our discussion, and if one dips below the target, one action we can do is conduct internal research. So that's one place that I have students look is what can you find out internally about why this KPI may be out of whack a little bit. So we may want to dig deeper into the issue. Usually because a KPI metric is so broad-based, right? It's not all of them, but at the high level of an organization, they don't tell us much meaningful information about the why. So why is the KPI down? It doesn't give you that information. So finding out that why is usually the impetus for strategy, right? If you can find that out, you know what to tweak or where to do your strategic intervention. So one example I'll give in higher education of using internal research is going back to that satisfaction result. So we are a multi-campus institution, and we have dug deeper into that internally by seeing if there are if satisfaction is lower, we can find out in certain locations, because since we are multi-campus, are there certain locations that have lower satisfaction than others with the student population. We can also do it by isolating programs of lower satisfaction. So are there certain academic programs that are causing overall satisfaction to be lower? And then reviewing those results to find out why. Another way to see it is depending on what example you want, just kind of depending on if customers or students, it just depends on the example. But if your survey is robust enough in that example, where you're asking about a variety of issues, you can also look at areas of satisfaction. So we're looking at, types of programs, student location, but also what area of the university or the institution is causing this. So maybe it's something, and we can maybe be able to dig into our data set to figure that out. So sometimes we might not be able to dig into our data set to figure that out. So we might need to do follow-up surveys or interviews or focus groups. So for example, if we find out satisfaction is low at a certain location, and then we dig down and find out, well, it's billing at that location. It's a problem with the billing that's causing low satisfaction. Maybe we don't know any more than that, and we need to then do research and interview the staff, interview the students to figure out, well, why is that an issue? So that's just my example of using internal research. I'm sure we have 1,000 of them, but Raj, I'm really interested in your industry, how you gather and use internal research.
Okay, what we do is, I'm going to use an example from a sales perspective, because usually the business units, they use the feedback as a key input into their analysis in terms of the sales approaches. Okay, there are basically three phases that I want to use an example in this situation. Cisco uses this very effectively. So in the phase one, you have what you call Salesforce Direct Counsel. Basically, it's an active sales pipeline that provides rolling opportunities for 6 months, and it's basically done on 2-quarter basis. And then you need a good active sales pipeline to measure what's coming down the line, so you can kind of strategize based on that. And the second phase of that is bookings. You want to take a look at what the customers are buying, what terms they're looking for, and what is the revenue amount. So this kind of gives you a good ability to look at potential bookings down the line. And the third phase is telemetry. Telemetry in the sense that how is this customer using this product? Okay, what type of features? How often? This is done through what you call SaaS. It's basically software for service, and it's a very good technique that is used and keeps the potential sales online. So having that example is very important, because that's also, you're looking at the revenue stream, and then you can tie that in terms of their vision and their mission statement. Because when you look at the vision, you want to be able to get from point A to point B, and whereas the mission statement states that in each phase, you got to be able to move that marker, that's your missions, to get to that vision. So having that type of input and the approach that to show the students how this is conceptually done, brings back very good abilities for the students to realize how things are moving in the private sector. So I usually use the case in this situation, the Cisco model.
Thank you for that, Raj. That's great.
Sure.
Cindy, the same question. How do you gather and use internal research?
Yeah, great question. So this is how my entire company was created. So I've been training travel agents since I was in my 20s, and the model changed right after the internet came along. We went from having call centers where travel agents were hourly based, and mom and pop travel agencies where you would go and work for a paycheck and then you'd earn a partial commission. Our model changed after the internet came about, right? Going into the 2000s, a lot of the brick and mortars went away, and the model of having employee-based travel agents really went to the wayside in lieu of what we have today are what's called hosting models, where brand new travel agents will sign up under a host to leverage their credentials, but they really still own and operate their own company. Now, that created an issue, especially when it came to training and education. So because so many companies, hosting models are leveraging contract workforces, they cannot have mandatory training. So they don't have consistent training. What was happening was a lot of travel agents would get excited. They would say, oh, I want to be a travel agent. And then they would start, and then they were left to their own devices to kind of figure things out. And it was absolutely a recipe for disaster, because although the internet can be easy for the end user of I'm going to book my own trip, being an actual travel agent and being responsible and liable for someone else's vacation, there are a lot of pieces behind the scenes that need to happen in order to even just book a successful trip, much less build a successful business. So what we figured out was we needed to create some type of a company to meet that need, where hosted agents or independent agents could have a better educational model. So because I started in that whole travel industry training world, I had always wanted to do that. So that we leveraged that knowledge and that information, and that's how Wanderlust Campus was born. Today we support everyone from aspiring travel agents all the way to those agency owners who are scaling to 200, 300, 400 agents at this point.
Thank you for that, Cindy. And I did have to turn my camera off. I've been told I'm having some video and audio issues, so that's why I'm a white square here. So,
no worries.
But now I'd like to discuss how we can better teach this concept to students. So one thing that I do is I have students segment the customer groups. So I have students think about what are ways they can slice and dice data internally to look for differences either by product line, and then have them develop a target primary research around those. So maybe we can dig deeper and do some primary research around some of those segments. Cindy, back to you again. What skills or tools do you wish your incoming staff had related to conducting and using that internal research?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just being able to be creative and have that innovation about the world. Like, look for business at its core is, can you solve someone's problem, right? So figuring out what are the problems to be solved and then creating a thing, a service, a tool, a resource, something that's going to then support to help to meet that need and to answer that problem the consumer has. So I think creativity and innovation are absolutely most important going into this next generation.
Thank you. And Raj, what examples or advice do you have to better convey this in the classroom?
Well, I think there's many different aspects of the sales, and I look at the forecasting. I think the forecasting is very important. As I mentioned earlier, the sales pipeline is a very important feature of that, and trying to look at your long-term projections. And then also based on that, you want to be able to book in terms of bookings. How are these opportunities are coming about? What are the customers really looking to buy into? And the terms and the revenue phase of the bookings is also an important feature of that. And telemetry is one of the most important things that you can read the market in terms of what the customer is actually looking for and how they use the product. And that product feature, you want to bring it back into the research and development to make a product that the customer is willing to buy. And having that type of information and providing the know-how is going to probably have many different spin-offs in other different types of opportunities in terms of products and services. So looking at these phases in terms of projections, in terms of sales, in terms of booking it, and also actually analyzing what's out there will help any companies into better positioning their product line in a very competitive advantage formation.
That's great insight, Raj. Thank you. So now I'd like to switch to external research, a little bit of a focus there, and kind of what I call market intelligence. Hey, that's my title, so I'm sticking to calling external research market intelligence. But we're going to each discuss one external research source in our industries and kind of how it has influenced strategy. So if you're familiar in higher education, one thing we do with external research is thinking of the competitive research. And one source we use is IPEDS, which is the Integrated Post-Secondary Education Data System. So it's a very official sounding system. It's from the National Center for Education Statistics. It's a free resource that a lot of us in higher education use that are looking for who else is offering the same programs? What are some of the, who are they producing? How many graduates are they producing out of each of these programs? So we use this a lot in new program development, research, and studies. And this has definitely influenced our strategy because it can really help us identify a niche in an industry where competitors are not playing. So perhaps it's a certain program category, but they're offering a degree at a different level than ours, maybe it's associates or bachelor's or master's. And we're looking at the competition, but then we review hiring levels based on Department of Labor data, and we might find a niche there to say, hey, there's a mismatch in what's currently being offered, what our competitors are offering, so we can kind of go in and propose a new program that way. So that's kind of how, that example obviously could be used in many industries. So that's just a specific source for our industry for some of that external research. But Raj, I know we had a quick talk before. I'm really excited to hear about a favorite source that you have, because I know we talked briefly about some of those free government sources that students and professionals can tap into.
Yes, I mean, I'm glad you're giving me the forum to do this, because the irony of this is that when I was an international trade specialist working for the Department of Commerce, I used to go to companies and help them get into foreign markets. And one of the things that we do very well in the Department of Commerce is using the trade.gov. It's a fantastic website that gives you great information on countries. So you can go to any countries basically and get the information you need on research. There's a thing called Country Commercial Guide. Gives you a very good overview on the different countries. It gives you top leading sectors that you can invest in. Talks about business climate. Gives you the political and the economic environment of that country. So this is updated by our senior commercial officers at our embassies, and we pay a lot of taxes for this, and it's available. You'd be surprised how many people really, small and medium-sized companies don't have a good knowledge base on this. So if you go to that, the amount of information you can get is phenomenal. It's basically set for the U.S. companies to penetrate into foreign markets. And having that kind of information is so valuable that you can actually get into you can get this information at your fingertips. And not only that, you're getting that foreign research reports, but you're also getting some of the services that you can get through the United States foreign commercial services around the world. They do a great job in terms of analyzing the market for you. And if you're in a very certain, very unique type of markets, they can analyze it and give you a report. Of course, it's going to cost you, but it won't cost you as much as it would from the private sector or third-party consultants. But it's pretty good in terms of getting the information that you need to be successful in the overseas market. So when you talk about research markets, this is where I think the students can really add value to their ability to go into certain markets and get the information that they need, and they can basically get into the foreign market very quickly. So it's a fantastic mechanism, and this if you go in there and peruse through it, you'd be surprised the type of information that you can get. So what's nice about this particular website is that it's up to date. It's at the most maybe 1 year, maybe I would say about 8 to 9 months old, but it's pretty good, very good for the students to really get their hands-on ability to get the information that they need for foreign markets. It's a fantastic website.
Thank you for that, Raj. I'm excited to hear that because I'm always looking for sources that we want to include in our 𝐤𝐞𝐚 strategy books and research books. I think that's a great place to expand this. This is great information.
Yeah.
Cindy, what do you use for market intelligence?
Yeah, so as our company started to grow and the needs of our travel agency owner clients that we supported, they said, wow, we have these teams. What can we do to kind of make sure that they're strong, coming out stronger and selling faster and building their numbers quicker? So we did some case study research around what does it look like when a travel agent doesn't have that formalized training or a sales process and they're kind of left to their own devices compared to our agency owners. We actually built a third-party training program to give to their students to test, what are the differences going to be? And every single time the students travel agents that had the formalized program and a specific sales process to follow outperformed. So that's how we kind of did an internal case study process that helped us really evolve our programs.
That's great. Thank you. And kind of moving on from that and maybe expanding a little bit more about how we can kind of keeping with our theme here of what do we use in industry and then how do we teach this concept to students. So I'll just throw in another source here too. One of the sources that I use in the classroom all the time, and I also use it in my professional life, is IBIS World, IBIS World. And it's industry trends. And it's a favorite source of mine for two reasons. It gives a super comprehensive report on all of the industries that have an NAICS code, right? So if it has an NAICS code, you can look that up in IBIS World, and it will give you a very comprehensive, like Raj was saying, I like reports that are kept up to date, right? So they're very much kept up to date, 6 months or at least annually. Actually, they just updated most of them this spring, and it will tell you who are the top players in that market. It will tell you the consumer attitudes towards that market. What are the latest trends going on with the technology within that market, within that industry. So I just love that, and I always give that to students as a as a starting point for any external research, any external secondary research for either a research class or when they're developing strategies. So another thing is it's for most institutions, I've asked quite a few, and it is pretty much standard in most libraries. So if your library doesn't have it, or at least ask to see if they have it, I bet they do. If they don't, it might be a good resource to request. So Cindy, what is one external source that you use in your industry that's been helpful?
Sure. So I love ASTA. ASTA is the American Society for Travel Advisors. ASTA's role is really to advocate on behalf of our industry. So they do a lot of work, nationwide to really support our industry, support travel agents, but they also do a really great job of keeping us informed, what's changing with laws, what's changing with the travel trends and travel news. They do a lot of great reporting, stats, data. So they have a great site. It's pretty minimal to be a member of their site, and I just love them. I think they're a wealth of information.
Thank you for that. And then Raj, I know you talked about trade.gov, and that's awesome. Do you have any other government sources to add to that you'd like to talk about?
Absolutely. I think the other labs that's very important that we haven't even looked into, that's got great pipeline of innovation that always seems to come out, but people are not aware of, is our research labs. For example, we have the Department of Energy research labs, okay? And these research labs have so much money poured into of innovation and technology that's out there that's available. So if you go online and look up the DOE research labs, I think you'll find lots of great innovations that you can actually license. You can get patents, you can get all kinds of different ability to license their potential innovation. That is it's fantastic that you can actually create industries based on that. And the Department of Commerce that I mentioned earlier, it has the ITA, which gives you the for the commercial world the ability to take your product from point A to point B any place in the world. They're set up for that, and it's a fantastic tool to use these different types of sources to make a fantastic opportunity for the small medium-sized companies, and also for the students to take a look at some of the great innovations that we're producing all the time. And that's the irony of it that I want to mention with the research labs. These research labs are out there. You can go and get access to them and get information that you need, and probably potentially commercialize some of those innovations into the private sector.
That's such great advice. I love hearing all about these resources and additional research that we can help our students and even in professionally too. So it's exciting to hear all that. So we're kind of winding down the core part of our presentation today, or our roundtable, but I really want to thank Raj and Cindy for their insight and expertise in their industries. It was so useful. I was taking notes the whole time. Because as a StuCat author, I for sure want to add some of their ideas and sources to continually update the courseware for future use. But I also hope that you found the discussion useful for your classroom, and kind of thinking of those examples of connecting research and strategy and what sources make sense to look at when you're giving examples or projects for specific industries. So now I'm going to turn it back over to StuKent to wrap things up.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Cindy. And thank you, Raj. This was a very insightful discussion that we had here today. As I mentioned earlier, Stephen is the author of 3 different courseware: Strategic Management and Planning, Business Research Essentials, and Market Research Essentials. And to thank each of you for attending today, we have some teaching materials you can use if you teach in any of these subjects. So we have a strategic planning committee's assignment, an internal business intelligence assignment, a qualitative exercise assignment, and you can click the link below to access any of those. And we will also give you free instructor access to the Strategic Management and Planning the business research and market research courseware and simternships. So to access these materials, just click on the link below. With free instructor access, you'll be able to preview the entire courseware and simulation, including lesson plans, assignments, lecture slides, and in the strategic management and planning courseware, there is even an expert session interview with Cindy. So I encourage each of you to click on that and get those assignments and the free access. So thank you so much, Stephen, Cindy, and Raj, once again. Quick reminder, you can connect with any of these, our panelists, by clicking on the links on your screen. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We hope you enjoy your weekend, and please remember to stay current with Stukent. Thanks, everyone. Goodbye.
Thanks, everybody.
Goodbye. Thank you.